A new United States Supreme Court term launched this week. With it will come the consideration of 3 major LGBTQ+ cases, including Harrison County native Becky Pepper Jackson's against the state of West Virginia. Pepper Jackson's case originally stemmed from a 2021 lawsuit. She sued against the state's ban on transgender student athletes in women's sports. Her suit argues the ban violates Title V and Title IX and the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause by targeting transgender people. Lower courts have sided with Pepper Jackson, who is currently still part of her high school girls track team. The Trump administration and West Virginia have both disagreed, arguing that state law is reasonable and is not discrimination.
It's important not to discount the concerns raised by cisgender females about competitive fairness, and we should absolutely, to the extent possible, make sure that athletic participation is fair.
Justices are scheduled to hear arguments in this West Virginia case sometime this December. A decision will likely be issued between the spring and summer of next year. Coming up in sports.